and welcome to Most Recent Save, a podcast where we load up my latest deep dive into the worlds of science, games, and pop culture. Each month, I'll bring you a fresh save file packed with insights, research, and stories that bridge these spaces. Think of it as an audio companion to the Zeitgeist newsletter. So grab your controller, keyboard, or just your curiosity, and let's hit continue on this journey together. I am your host, Dr. Rachel Cowart. Here are some of the things you may have missed from May 2025, starting as we always do with research and news. Grand Theft Auto 6 is delayed again. This news did not surprise me, but it did come with a collective groan and eye roll from the internet. We've been waiting quite a while for a new GTA, and it looks like we're going to be waiting at least a year longer. The games industry is screwed. Alana Pierce published a new video on her YouTube channel this month explaining why the stock market sucks and ruins everything, including video games. I will point out that the way she uses the word addictive in this video is not in line with scientific consensus. Games are not a substance, and dopamine hits are not the thing people think it is. But all in all, it is a very insightful video about the economics likely driving the game cancellations and mass layoffs we have been seeing. I highly recommend checking out the full video on her YouTube channel, which is linked in this month's newsletter. From 4chan to the White House, one of my favorite colleagues, George Osborne, published a fantastic piece in his newsletter this month about how failing to take games seriously has fed the populist right. I've been banging on about games as cultural assets of influence for quite some time, and what George outlines in his piece is exactly why. Quote, Gamergate helps create the conditions, the models for activism, and the activist base which would feed the alt-right and QAnon. These groups would in turn form the activist base and information space which would help bring the populist right to power in America. But Gamergate would not have had this influence if it hadn't been listened to. And it was right-wing populists in America who realized that listening to this community could translate into influence in both game communities and wider politics, opening the door to the power in the process. Highly recommend checking out his full piece and also subscribing to his newsletter. Tennessee gamer stops mass shooting plot. Two teen boys allegedly shared their plan to kill up to 100 people in a Northern California school in an online game. After witnessing disturbing messages, another teenager, located hundreds of miles away in Tennessee, contacted the authorities to let them know about the disturbing messages he had read. Now here's the thing. This is great. I'm really glad that this young boy realized these threats could be real and were real and contacted the local authorities. But how is it that teenagers are planning violent acts in public game spaces without any automated red flags going off? How are we still so reliant on reactive moderation from users that we cannot even effectively flag some of the most egregious offenses? It honestly baffles me. And yes, moderation at scale and scope and the swiftness with which language changes and shifts are all problems that are difficult to solve. But I truly do not understand that with the manpower, technological advancements, and the extensive innovation in proactive moderation that we have seen in games over the last several years, that these kinds of actions are not caught platform side. Canadian documentary highlights the dangers of the metaverse. A new documentary was released this month called Dangerous Games on the channel called TVO in Canada. It is also available for streaming online. This documentary takes a look at the darker sides of gaming, racism, extremism, and child grooming. It's hard to watch, but really important for parents, policymakers, and players to understand the darker side of these spaces. Mobile Syrup also published a really nice overview about the documentary, which you can read online. New research. Study links all types of cyberbullying to PTSD in teens. What happens online matters offline. What happens in the virtual walls of games, social media, online forums, what have you, is not magically contained there. New research this month out of Florida Atlantic University adds to the growing body of research showing that cyberbullying should be considered an adverse child experience, a category of childhood trauma linked to long-term emotional, psychological, and physical harm. I provide a link to that study in this month's newsletter if you want to read more. New research, crunch and video game production. A new review paper, which is a paper that looks at a bunch of publications on a specific topic and condenses that knowledge into essentially an academic TLDR, was published this month looking at the organizational factors that contribute to crunch and game development. 4 categories of factors emerged: people management, environment and culture, time management, and product management. Knowing what organizational factors are associated with crunch, managers and professionals can better avoid them and promote a healthier workplace with sustainable and ethical work practices. New research. The end of trust and safety? If you know me at all, you'll know my work has increasingly fallen under the umbrella of trust and safety over the last several years. This new piece from Kai Play takes a historical look at trust and safety in tech, looking at its evolution and its future. I found the piece to be particularly enlightening around the distinction of artisanal, community, and industrial moderation. You can read the full article. It's linked in this month's newsletter, and it is open access. We love that for us. Layoffs, layoffs, layoffs. I'm a broken record at this point about the layoffs, but here we are. EA laid off hundreds of workers. Microsoft laid off more than 6,000 people. We also saw massive layoffs at Polygon this month, including the layoffs of several award-winning journalists. If you're interested, PV Guide on Substack has started publishing exit interviews with people who were laid off from Polygon, and they are equally inspiring and heartbreaking. While all of these layoffs are awful, the layoffs in particular of the games journalists should worry us. The loss of trusted voices in gaming media in favor of what I can only assume is AI-generated content hurts players, developers, and the industry at large. How video game sex scenes are made. Speaking of award-winning journalists who were laid off from Polygon, I absolutely loved this piece this month from Nicole Carpenter, giving us the stories we really want to know, understanding how sex scenes in games are made. No, really, it's a great read. Last piece of news and research this month is abuse at Able Gamers. Grant Stoner published a shocking piece this month about the mistreatment of employees at the large nonprofit Able Gamers. As outlined in the piece, the founder, Mark Bartlett, subjected his employees to verbal and emotional abuse, aggressive behavior, sexual harassment, financial mismanagement, and general leadership failure. The full piece is available to read at IGN.com. In case you missed it, Zeitgeist. Ooh, this was a busy month for me. Lots of travel, lots of things. First, I went to PAX East. It was in May this year, which meant I could attend for the first time in several years. I spoke on a few panels, I had a Zeitgeist of Pop Culture author meetup, and I even played a few games. I posted a 90-second roundup on my YouTube channel if you're interested in seeing what I was up to. I also went to Norway this month for the Academic Esports Seminar. I had so much fun making the 90-second roundup of PAX East that I made one for this event too. The long and short of it is esports is growing exponentially, and people are still debating whether it's a sport or not. It is in fact a sport, recognized by the Olympics no less. Esports communities are growing and thriving, and while it may not be a profession in and of itself, it is certainly a space where many 21st century skills and abilities are being fostered. Now, I just mentioned 2 YouTube shorts that I made in the last month, and speaking of shorts, I've been making a lot of them on YouTube lately, and honestly, I'm really enjoying it. I find myself in the weird space of too online for a normal job. Their words, not mine. I am indeed trying to find steady employment, but not online enough for it to actually make me a living. So I've turned to shorts in an attempt to broaden my audience and maybe take me to the latter, since I'm already firmly in the former. Did I do that right? If you aren't a YouTube subscriber yet, please consider taking the 2 clicks it would take to become one. It's free and the easiest way to support my work. And that's Zeitgeist YouTube, to be clear. This month, I was interviewed by the Video Games Library, which is one of my favorite social media accounts. They also have a Substack now, and that's where the interview is featured. We talked about my academic to quasi-academic journey, the Zeitgeist of Pop Culture book series, and a whole lot of other things in between. There is also a new Zeitgeist of Pop Culture book this month, the Zeitgeist of Pop Culture Dragon Age, edited by Christine Tomlinson. This book has it all: identity, morality, colonialism, representation, just to name a few. As always, the PDF is free, but a huge thank you to EA who let us use their beautiful art on their cover. Be sure to check it out. Links in this month's newsletter, as always. Parenting, screen time, and life preparedness. This month at Nurture, I published a couple new pieces. The first was on age-appropriate video games and apps and how to evaluate the seemingly endless amount of options out there. I talk about the difference between age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate, and also talk about the 5 video game apps I happily recommend for young kids age 4 to 7. I also published a piece about screens versus video games, the old active versus passive screen time. Both have value, but those values are quantitatively and qualitatively different. Both of these can be found on the Nurture Academy website and or linked in my newsletter. As you know, I've said it before, I'm really excited to be part of the work that Nurture is doing. If you aren't familiar with them, Nurture is an app that helps children age 4 to 7 bridge the life preparedness gap. It is backed by learning science and crafted by Emmy-winning storytellers. You can learn more about them at nurture.is. I do have a special code that'll help you skip the wait list, and all that information is in my newsletter. All right, best part of the newsletter, side quests. What I'm reading. I read a wonderful profile on Mobile Syrup of the one and only Amanda Farrow. If you don't know her, she is a game multi-classer, an author, a wonderful human, a mentor, a mama, a Canadian. It's great to see your friends and colleagues be profiled for all that they do. She also was one of the producers on the new game that just came out, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown. She's great. Check it out. what I'm watching. I am watching The Last of Us. I'm not caught up. I'm about halfway through. Pedro. I'm still feeling that one on my soul. But what I talk about on my newsletter this month is old PSAs on gaming safety. It came across my newsfeed somehow about these old PSAs they used to play, I guess, in Canada. And you know how I like to call for a PSA around digital literacy, but this one isn't what I quite had in mind. Check it out. I've linked it in my newsletter. They're not subtle. They're not subtle. I'll say that. Last but not least, what I'm playing. The Exit 8. Have you heard of this game? This game is a trip, y'all. 10 out of 10. I thought I beat it, and it turned out I just got the bad ending. So I spent many a minute trying to beat it last night, this week, with my kids. And it's fun. Who knew walking simulator would be one of my favorite genres? That's how it got sold to me. It was described as like a Stanley Parable, inspired by the Stanley Parable. You're just kind of in this subway tunnel. I don't know if it's a tunnel, a hallway in a subway, and you're trying to get to exit number 8. It's cool. It's about $3 on PlayStation Network. That's where I got it anyway. It's very good. I recommend. It's super fun. Give it a go. Well, that's it for me this month. You will find a link to the newsletter below, and in the newsletter, you will find links to all of the things I discussed today. And while you're there, be sure to add yourself to the mailing list so my newsletter can come straight into your inbox. Until next time, be excellent to each other and always cite your sources. This podcast was produced by Zeitgeist, a multimedia content production studio that focuses on the intersection of games, science, and pop culture, created by Rachel Coert.